It feels like we're in the middle of a full-blown psychedelic renaissance. After being totally off limits for decades, scientists are rediscovering these compounds for treating mental health. But let's cut through the hype for a second, because a huge question remains. How do they actually work? What is physically happening inside our brains that can create such profound, lasting change? Well, in this explainer, we're going to unpack the incredible new science of how psychedelics physically rewire the brain. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the history that brought us to this point. Then, we're going to dive deep, and I mean deep, into the cellular mechanics of what's going on. From there, we'll get into the huge debate this new science has kicked off. And finally, we'll zoom back out and look at what all this could mean for the future of mental health care. All right, first up, let's set the stage. To really get why all this is happening right now, you have to understand the pretty wild path psychedelic science has been on to get here. Look, psychedelics are not new at all. Their use in rituals goes way, way back. But the modern scientific chapter really starts in 1938 with the discovery of LSD. That discovery sparked a massive research boom in the 50s and 60s. We're talking over 1,000 studies, all pointing to some real therapeutic potential. And then, everything just stopped. In 1970, they were made Schedule I drugs, and the research basically hit a brick wall for almost 30 years. It wasn't until the 90s, when we got these powerful new brain imaging tools, that the renaissance we're seeing today really took off. And this new wave of research, it's producing some absolutely staggering results. We're seeing clinical trials where just 1 or 2 guided doses for things like severe depression and anxiety can lead to benefits that aren't just fast, they're incredibly long-lasting. Patients are reporting relief that goes on for months. That, right there, is what's fueling all the excitement and pushing the science forward. Okay, so let's get into it. We've seen what's happening, these amazing clinical results. But the big question is, how? How is this possible? To figure that out, we've got to go down to the cellular level. The key to this entire story, the absolute central concept, is something called neuroplasticity. Put simply, it's the brain's amazing ability to change and adapt by literally growing new connections between its cells, its neurons. This isn't just a cool metaphor. It's the physical rewiring of our brain circuits. And guess what? Conditions like depression are often linked to a decrease in this very process. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. For the longest time, we thought the magic of psychedelics all came from one place. The serotonin 2A receptor, or 5-HT2A, hitting this receptor is like turning on a loudspeaker in the brain. It's what causes that altered perception, the trip. But here is the groundbreaking part. Recent research has found that these compounds also bind directly to a totally different receptor called TRKB. And this one, it's not a loudspeaker. Think of it more like a gardener for the brain. Activating this receptor is what directly promotes that neuroplasticity, telling neurons to physically grow and form new connections. And this quote just nails it. The mind-altering effects from that loudspeaker receptor and the brain rewiring effects from the Gardner receptor, well, it turns out they're separate. They are distinct pathways. One does not necessarily have to cause the other. This is a huge deal. This discovery is so big, it's led scientists to create a whole new term for these kinds of substances, psychoplastogens. So instead of defining them by their ability to make you hallucinate, this term defines them by what might be their most important quality, their incredible, rapid ability to promote neural plasticity, to physically change the brain. So the crucial point here is, if the hallucinogenic part and the brain rewiring part are two different things, well, that forces us to ask a really, really important question about what's actually doing the healing. And here it is. If the long-term benefit, the actual healing, comes from that neuroplasticity, from that rewiring, then is the intense mind-bending trip just a side effect? Or is it an absolutely essential part of the therapy? This single question is at the very heart of the biggest debate in psychedelic medicine today. This debate has really split researchers into two main camps. On one side, you have the plasticity hypothesis. These guys say the real medicine is the biological rewiring, that Gardner effect from the TRKB receptor. So the trip, it might just be a side effect we could eventually get rid of. But on the other side, you've got the psychotherapy hypothesis. This camp argues that, no way, the subjective experience is essential. It's what opens up the mind, allowing a patient with a therapist's guidance to work through things in a way they never could before. The implications of that first idea, the plasticity hypothesis, are just massive. It means we could potentially engineer brand new medicines, non-hallucinogenic psychoplastogens, that could give you all the brain rewiring benefits without any of the intense, and let's be honest, sometimes really difficult psychological experiences. That would make this kind of treatment way more accessible to a lot more people. So, what does this all mean for the future? I mean, this isn't just some academic squabble. It actually points to two very, very different paths forward for how we treat mental illness. You can see the two futures right here. On one path, we have psychedelic-assisted therapy. This approach embraces both pathways, the trip and the plasticity, to create this really powerful synergy of biological and psychological healing. But the patient experience is intense, and it needs a lot of support from therapists. Then you have the other path, developing these non-hallucinogenic psychoplastogens. These would be designed to only target that TRKB pathway to just promote plasticity. For the patient, this would feel more like taking a standard medication, no altered states of consciousness needed. And if there's one thing you should take away from all this, it's that the real revolution here might not even be psychedelics themselves, but the mechanism they've shined a light on. For decades, psychiatry was all about this idea of chemical imbalances. This new research suggests a completely different way of thinking, a model where we treat mental illness by directly helping the brain's own ability to heal and rewire itself. It leaves us with a really powerful question for the future of mental health. What if the key to healing our minds isn't about balancing chemicals, but about physically rebuilding the circuits? That is the revolutionary idea at the heart of all this new science. Thanks so much for digging into this with me.